Hello, everybody! Welcome back to the Colorado Rockies rebuild franchise here on MLB The Show 24. In the last episode, we wrapped up the regular season, and in this episode, we're now going to simulate through the playoffs, simulate the World Series. But before we do that, we'll take a look at some league leaders here, along with award winners, and look over our player stats as well. So starting here in the National League, Luis Arraez is the batting champion. In the entire league, he led the way at 327. A good bit there over Ronald Acuna Jr. And then Brian Reynolds, now of the Cardinals, he was traded in season, and I can't harp enough on how bad the trade system here is in MLB The Show. I wanted to turn trades off altogether here in year one, just so there wasn't too much like organization turnover. But Brian Reynolds is now a Cardinal, as Tink Hence was dealt to the Pirates earlier in the season. The Pirates also dealt O'Neal Cruz to the Rays and outfielder Jack Sawinski to the Guardians. But moving on, also Brendan Rodgers down here at 307. And look at the progression from Rodgers. We're going to try and lock him up long-term in the offseason. We do have one more year of arbitration on him, but based on his growth this year, he's going to be a staple on this team and this franchise. Probably be he has bat at the leadoff spot for us, but we kind of like him more in the 2-hole, maybe even the 3-hole as his power comes along here. Plus 11 contact versus lefties, plus 6 power versus lefties, and good progression the rest of the way. Career highs in average, OBP, slugging. I'm sorry, not slugging, but average in OBP and OPS, along with homers, RBIs, and hits. So Rodgers, a career year from him, and he was one of probably our best hitter all year. In the American League, their batting champion, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he beats out teammate Bo Bichette by just 2 points. That was probably a fun little race they were having. Jarren Duran here for the Red Sox, along with Tristan Casas down here a little bit, and then a pair of Yankees here, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, and a lot of AL East. The top 8 are all AL East besides Yordan Alvarez here. Harold Ramirez, a very good season from him for Tampa Bay, and he's bat 300 in the past 3 seasons, so Harold Ramirez, he's onto something out of Colombia. Hits, he actually led the league in hits with 201. He was the only player in the entire league with more than 200 hits. Acuna Jr., 199. That must be so painful, coming up 1 hit short of 200. Nico Horner, a career year from him. He was an all-star. A very good progression from him. And he has a pretty good contract, 2 more years of 11.7, and then he'll be set to hit the free agent market. Already probably the best fielding second baseman in the game, and that vision at 95, very good. Just a very good player, and he fits a very good archetype there at second base. He actually led the league in at-bats with 679. Acuna Jr. with 50 doubles, 1 short of Harold Ramirez, who also led the league in doubles with 51. Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westburg, Cedric Mullins down here, a trio of Orioles as they're set for a playoff run. Tatis, Ohtani, Reynolds, and here's Nolan Jones for us. He finished 5th in the National League, tied here with Yelich and Adam Duvall. Nolan Jones had a pretty decent season. We were hoping for more power out of him, only 18 home runs, and that's too short of what he had last year and about 150 more at-bats. So his at-bats per home run were way down, 10 more than last year at 18.4, now 28.4. I think next year, though, he'll put it together, have more of a complete season, and I think he might even be a 30 home run guy for us. We just need him to cut down the strikeouts, and we really hope that vision and the power attributes can see some progression next season. Triples, we have 12 here from Dairon Blanco and Marcus Semien. Bobby Witt Jr. with 11. Kevin Kiermaier, now of the Blue Jays, his second year with them, he had 10. No one had double digits here in the NL, but Dansby Swanson with teammate Nico Horner each had 9, along with Corbin Carroll. Will Benson for the Reds, that's probably a surprise name to see here with 8 triples, along with a bunch more. Johan Rojas, former Jersey Shore Blue Claw great, if you know, you know. Home runs, Aaron Judge with 53, the second most he's ever hit. And he had a very nice year. 311 batting average, slugging 639, OPS over 1,000 for the 3rd straight season. And he was in contention for a triple crown. As you see here, he led in home runs and RBIs. But looks like he just couldn't put the hitting together, as he kind of fell about, 10 points short, maybe 5 points short of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So Judge also leads in RBIs, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette up here. In the NL, Nolan Gorman, 138 RBIs. Look at this season from him. 45 long balls, OBP at 347, 55, 22 slugging. OPS only at 869, but still 45 dingers. A potential. 97 power against righties, 86 against lefties. So the Cardinals have a very good player at him, a second base, third baseman, left-handed slugger. Shohei Ohtani, 128. And Manny Machado, 125 RBIs, 44 home runs. A career year from him in the power department, slugging at 568. And he had a very good year there for the Padres, who missed the playoffs. I think they might have finished 81 and 81. They were around 500. Patrick Wisdom, the home run derby winner, 43 dingers, 116 RBIs. Very good power season from him. Going over to runs, Seager led the way in the AL. Shohei Ohtani, 126 runs, and that was 16 more than the AL leader. He had to have won the MVP. I actually haven't checked that out yet, but we'll get to awards here very shortly once we go through these league leaders. Cedric Mullins with 44 stolen bases, the most he's ever had. He leads the AL. Esteury Ruiz behind him with 40. John Birdie of the Yankees. Who else we got down the stolen bases at night? Nico Horner, 49 stolen bases from him as he led the NL. Very, very strong year from him. CJ Abrams from the Nationals, 45. He has back-to-back 45 stolen base seasons. And we didn't have many stolen bases this year on the Rockies, so don't expect anyone up there. Walks, Christian Walker led the way. And doesn't that work? Christian Walker led the league in walks. Led the NL. Yordan Alvarez, 102 walks. 101 for J.P. Crawford. And he had a very good season, 29 home runs for the Mariners, who are about to go on a playoff run of their own after winning the the AL West. On base, Brendan Donovan here for the Cardinals, too short of a 400 OBP. Christian Yelich under him, and Yordan Alvarez, 420 on base. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here at 400. Slugging, Shohei Ohtani at 619 led the NL. Acuna Jr., Manny Machado. Teoscar Hernandez here, who's going to miss the playoffs for the Dodgers here in his first season. He had a very good year, 33 home runs and just under 500 at-bats. Aaron Judge led the AL in slugging, followed by Yordan Alvarez. Then there's Bichette and Guerrero Jr. for the Blue Jays. And I think the Blue Jays missed the playoffs. So kind of a shame there with those sluggers in the lineup. Ohtani, the only player in the NL with an OPS over 1,000. And then here in the AL, we have Alvarez and Judge. And now we'll get into pitching. Shane McClanahan, he started for the AL in the All-Star game. He led the AL in wins with 19. Two Mariners teammates here, Brian Wu and Luis Castillo, each with 17, along with John Means of Baltimore, Aaron Savali, Bailey Ober, Chris Bissett, Tyler Wells, all 15-win guys over here. And on the NL, Zach Gallen, 24 wins for Zach Gallen. We faced him in episode 1 of this series on opening day, and he got the first of 24 wins against us. He goes 24-3, the New Jersey native. Love to see that. 241 innings. Oh my goodness. He was just going deep into games pretty much every outing. 212 strikeouts. Very good ERA, whip under 1. 6 complete games, 4 shutouts, a 5.4 WAR. And he's going to be a free agent. I mean, they have him one more year of arbitration, but Zach Gallen, he's going to get a huge contract here in the next year or two. Bobby Miller with 20. Shota Imanaga, 20-5 in his first season with the Cubs. He might be the Rookie of the Year here in the NL. And Bobby Miller, a good sophomore campaign from him. He goes 20-3 over 200 innings, 21 quality starts. And the Dodgers just have a ton of aces up and down that rotation. Over here it saves Albert Alzolay for the Cubs. Evan Phillips each with 46. Alzolay had 5 blown saves. Phillips with 7. Iglesias here, he had only 2 blown saves for the Braves all year. 45 out of 47. He might be the reliever of the year in the NL. Here's Brian Abreu, who was acquired by the Giants. They get an elite closer, 44 out of 48. But it's weird. Why would a bottom-tier team like the Giants trade for a closer, and why would the Astros trade their closer when they're a playoff team? It makes no sense. Although I think Houston, they did get a wild card spot. Tanner Scott, 42 out of 45. Very good year from him. Now in the AL, Johan Duran, 54 saves, led the league. 54 out of 60 for him. A lot of save attempts there for the AL winners, the Minnesota Twins. Pete Fairbanks here for Tampa Bay, 47 out of 51. Andres Munoz, 46 out of 49. Very good showing from him. ERA, Garrett Cole, a 1.76 ERA. We see two Yankees here at the top, along with Clark Schmidt. He had a tremendous season, very good growth. Only a C potential, though, but the Yankees got all they could out of Schmidt this year. McClanahan's up here, led the league in wins, led the AL in wins, now second in ERA. Matt Manning for Detroit. Seth Lugo, a couple of surprising names that high up. Max Scherzer. And now for the NL, so Zach Gallen, he leads the NL in ERA. I was going to go over to see strikeouts, but to see if he won a pitching triple crown. But that's what it is, right? Wins, ERA, and strikeouts. Am I wrong on that? But either way, he just beat Zach Wheeler for the ERA crown as he's .01 above Wheeler. And Wheeler was the NL starter in the All-Star game. Wade Miley, Sandy Alcantara, the only 4 pitchers with a sub-3 ERA. And then we see Musgrove, Strider. Home runs allowed only 11 from Alcantara. Garrett Crochet allowed only 12 there in the AL. 5 shutouts for McClanahan. 4 for Wheeler and Gallen. And Spencer Strider, 257 strikeouts. And the Braves have him signed for another 5 seasons at 12.5. So a very team-friendly deal for a team who already has maybe the best pitcher in the entire league. There's Ohtani with the 222. Hunter Green, Zach Gallen, Zach Wheeler, Kodai Senga, and Blake Snell, all pitchers with over at least 200 strikeouts. Only 2 of them here in the AL, 216 for McClanahan and 200 for Gosman. So that means McClanahan was, I don't know, I was going to say he was kind of close of winning the AL Triple Crown, but he was way off in ERA. Garrett Cole, I would probably give the Cy Young to Garrett Cole. Just, I don't know, he really doesn't have the strikeout numbers, though. He's not even anywhere up here. So that'll be interesting to see who won the AL Triple Crown. I would imagine it's between McClanahan and Garrett Cole. And here's Cole, 6 complete games, and he was tied for the league lead here along with Logan Webb and Zach Gallen here in the NL West. Innings pitched, Castillo with 229 led the AL, followed by McClanahan. And then in the NL, Zach Gallen with 241 and 2/3, far and away the most work of any pitcher this season. Aaron Nola, Logan Webb under him. And I know it's kind of long just looking at these lists. I hope you, if you don't enjoy this kind of stuff, of course, feel free to skip ahead in the video. But I know some people do like looking at the numbers, as I do kind of just like to look at it wrapping up the league. I like to see who kind of led the way here. In whip, Zach Gallen and Zach Wheeler, each a sub-1 whip. Wade Miley, it seems like he had a very good year at 37 years old. 10 starts, primarily out of the bullpen. He had a 2.8 ERA, a 1.02 whip. And 37 years old, who knows if he'll be back next season. Logan Webb, Sandy Alcantara, 2 other dominant pitchers. And then here in the AL, McClanahan and Cole each tied there at 1.03. So that's even more interesting to the Cy Young race than Miller and Castillo. Mariners got very good starting pitching this season. They're set for a playoff run as the AL West champions. Pitching WAR, Logan Gilbert led the league in pitching WAR at 5.8. I don't think he's even someone we've seen mentioned among these league leaders, really. It's just been Castillo, and then we see George Kirby here. So the Mariners had 3 of the top 6 pitching WAR leaders. That's pretty insane. What a staff they put together. Then there's McClanahan, Joe Ryan, Garrett Cole, Castillo, Kirby, Max Scherzer. Now in the NL, Zach Wheeler and Zach Gallen, they each tie with 5.5. And I would say the Cy Young's probably between them two, but I think you just got to give it to Zach Gallen. Spencer Strider, 5.0 pitching WAR. Logan Webb, Michael King, Joe Musgrove, a few NL West guys. And now batting WAR to round out the league leaders. Dansby Swanson at 8.4, as he was second in the league in batting WAR. Shohei at 8, Mookie Betts at 7.6, Acuna, Freddie Freeman, and James Outman down here as well, even though he has missed a lot of time. So the Dodgers, just a ton of WAR leaders here, especially you see Will Smith now going over to the AL. Aaron Judge led all batters in WAR at 9.9, and Adley Rutschman, 8.3, second in the league. And he batted 399 and 331 at bats, so he would have been the batting champion, but I guess he just didn't have the at bats. Wow, 399. OPS at 1.193. What a stud he's going to be. At this pace, he's going to be like one of the all-time great catchers. That's going to be cool to see how he progresses throughout this series. Now we'll look at awards, and Shohei Ohtani was the NL MVP, just barely eking out Zach Gallen. And, it's rare, especially nowadays, to see a pitcher in the MVP conversation. But Zach Gallen was right there with Ohtani. But, Ohtani being the two-way player that he is, his pitching wasn't, too far behind Gallen one-on-one. And then when you add in the batting, you kind of have to give it to Ohtani. So he wins his third MVP award, his first here with the Dodgers in his debut season there in the opposite LA team. Zach Gallen, and then Nolan Gorman, number 3 in the MVP race, as St. Louis just misses the playoffs. Aaron Judge, he wins his second MVP with a 53 home run season, followed by Alvarez and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now the Cy Young in the NL, of course, it's Zach Gallen, and who was it? Who did we say was going to be in contention with him? Because Strider was number 2, Ohtani was number 3. Oh, Zach Wheeler. So Zach Wheeler was not even in the conversation, and like we said, Ohtani was the MVP, and he was the 3rd in Cy Young. So not too far behind Gallen, just speaking pitching alone. But when you add in the bat, of course, Ohtani is the MVP. Shane McClanahan actually takes the Cy Young in the AL over Castillo and Gilbert, 2 Mariners. Garrett Cole not even up there. Now the batting title we saw earlier was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Luis Arias. That's Arias' 3rd batting title, his 3rd consecutive. Reliever of the year in the AL is Pete Fairbanks, 47 out of 51, a 1.53 ERA, a 102 WHIP, and he's kind of establishing himself as one of the better closers here in the American League. Duran and Munoz behind him. In the NL, Iglesias, he was dominant. Although look at the regression. -10 in Ks per 9, -6 in walks per 9, -7 in clutch, and -64 in control. They do have him for one more season, but I don't know if he's going to hang on to the closer role with this regression going ahead. Evan Phillips and Ryan Helsley behind him. Rookie of the year in the AL, Evan Carter. The Rangers missed the playoffs, but Carter, 30 home runs, 76 ribbies, 31 doubles, 280 batting average, 368 OBP, and a 902 OPS. So 21-year-old A potential, 10-plus power versus righties. Already one of the better hitters in the AL West against righties. But he does need to come around against lefties. But Colt Keith 2nd, Nolan Shanwell 3rd, now in the NL. And a very good race here with Imanaga, Jung-Ho Lee, and Yamamoto. So 2 players who hail from Japan and 1 from South Korea. That's a very interesting dynamic there in the NL. A lot of debuts from overseas players. Imanaga was 20-5. Jung-Ho Lee, very good performance at the plate from him. An OPS at 710. He's getting better in the field. There's very strong arm out there in center and adequate speed. And then Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 25 years old, 5 years younger than Imanaga, but much larger potential, of course. Hank Aaron Award goes to Yordan Alvarez as like the best pure hitter in the AL, and then Shohei gets that in the NL. So Shohei stacking on the hardware, and now we'll go through the gold gloves just in the NL. We don't really need to go back and forth. We'll see if any of our guys were in the race. Musgrove, pitcher, Gabriel Moreno, back-to-back gold gloves for him, and Christian Walker, his 3rd straight gold glove. So the Diamondbacks getting very good fielding at the catcher, first base spots. Dairo Estrada there for the Giants. Nolan Arenado, how many gold gloves is that for him now? And I love how this year they're keeping track of awards. That's absolutely amazing. His 11th gold glove. Definitely a future Hall of Famer. Dansby Swanson, he led the NL in batting war, and he also wins a gold glove. So the Cubs, their middle infield with Swanson and Horner, it seems to be set for the next few years. Brandon Marsh gets a gold glove for the Phillies. Tommy Edman, Fernando Tatis. And then Silver Slugger, Shohei Ohtani, the Silver Slugger Award. And then fellow Japanese countryman Masataka Yoshida wins the Silver Slugger here for the Boston Red Sox. 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs, OPS at 813. Silver Slugger. How do you not give it to Rutschman? How do you not give it to Rutschman? Yainer Diaz wins a Silver Slugger here, the catcher for Houston. 29 home runs, OPS at 763. I mean, Rutschman's slugging alone was only about 100 points shy of Diaz's OPS. So that's just absurd. We're with you, Rutschman. You're the Silver Slugger in our books, and we'll even call you the batting champion as well at 399. What would he need? What would he need to be qualified? Would he need like 400 at bats, or is it he couldn't have been too far off of being qualified to be, the batting champion. Silver Slugger here, Will Smith, he had a home run against us in the last episode. Freddie Freeman, another Dodger, there wins a Silver Slugger. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Silver Slugger in the AL. Nico Horner gets his Silver Slugger. So you would have thought he would win a Gold Glove over a Silver Slugger. He beats Ketel Marte, Ozzie Albies, Marcus Semien, the back-to-back Silver Sluggers for him in his first 2 years there in Texas. Alex Bregman gets his Silver Slugger, his first since 2019. Since 2019. Jose Ramirez, Royce Lewis behind him. Manny Machado with his 44 home run season. He won it in the NL. And how does Nolan Gorman? Where's he at? How would Nolan Gorman not win? Oh, he was a DH, that's why. And he got beat out by Ohtani. I was going to say, you got to give him there. I would just give Gorman the Silver Slugger. He's a second baseman. I mean, whatever. Swanson, Silver Slugger in the NL. Bo Bichette in the AL. And we're just going to finish it up here with the outfielders. Ronald Acuna Jr., Spencer Steer, and Brian Reynolds, newly acquired from the Cardinals, the Silver Sluggers here in the NL. The AL, Aaron Judge, Yordan Alvarez, Juan Soto. So 2 of those Yankees. And now before we get to simulating the playoffs, we'll just look at our player stats and wrap up our season until we get into the postseason. So Rogers led our team with 180 hits, our lone all-star. We kind of talked about him before. Probably our best, most consistent hitter in the lineup. And we're going to have him, we hope to sign him to maybe a 4 or 5 year contract in the next episode. Chris Bryant, 164 hits. And the +8 contact versus lefties you like, although power versus lefties going down along with vision and discipline. I think he did lead our team in RBIs, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like tied with Nolan Jones with 77 ribbies. His first complete season since signing with the Colorado Rockies. I mean, it is kind of bizarre. We have him for 3 more years at $26 million before we can opt out of the contract. So he's kind of just going to stick around maybe as a DH type guy. We do like the clutch at 75. So if runners are on base ahead of him, he does have some good contact. Slugging over 400, just barely over 400. So he doesn't bring much, and for his contract, not worth it at all. But it's kind of hard to get out of that. I don't know how we would do so. I don't think a team is trading for that. So he's kind of going to be sticking it out here for us in the first few seasons. Ryan McMahon, he had a pretty decent year, career high in average on base. Not slugging. The slugging was down. Lowest amount of home runs since 2020, where he only had 172 at-bats. So in seasons where he's been a full-time starter, this has been his worst power season. And he is seeing regression there, -6 against righties, -3 against lefties, along with some other regression along the board there. We do have him for 3 more seasons, and we don't expect him to dip down too far. I think he'll kind of stay 77 overall, kind of where he's at, and be a very good third baseman, very good against righties, but he's someone we really can't afford to put into the lineup against a lefty starter. So that's a hole we're going to try and fill in the offseason. Nolan Jones here, 140 hits. Montero, Ezekiel Tovar. Those are the only guys with over 100. And Doyle. And here's Raimel Tapia. He ended this season hot after we signed him in free agency. He came on very strong, kind of cooled off, and then I guess he went on a little more of a hot streak until he suffered an injury, which kept him out the rest of the season. Sean Bouchard, let's go over to slugging here. Elhurst Montero led in slugging at 464, and he was our best power hitter. 23 home runs, led the team. Our only batter with over 20 home runs, and we play at Coors Field. That's kind of bizarre. An OPS at 782, and he's someone who's going to be around next year based on his hitting and his production. We'll keep him in the lineup and see how he can progress going forward. Nolan Jones got the slugging going kind of more towards the second half of the season. He really struggled with power just overall in the beginning of the year. Rogers with the 456 slugging. Yanquiel Fernandez, we were kind of forced to call him up earlier than we wanted with injuries in the outfield, kind of like we said earlier with Tapia. And he ended pretty well, batting 253, 451 slugging, OPS at 754, and 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and less than 100 at-bats at 21 years old. He wasn't really hitting well in AAA, but when he got the call up, he started delivering. And he's someone who's going to battle for a roster spot next year. I'm not quite sure if he's where we want him to be as a full-time MLB player, but not too far off. And based on his production, we'll definitely give him a shot to earn another spot. And now here's Sean Bouchard, 438 slugging this year, but if you go back to prior seasons, 684 last year and 500 the year before. A career 482 slugging, although we see the potential up there, it's dipping down, although he is progressing, so that's kind of a weird situation. He's seeing good progression across the board, +6 power against lefties, +2 power versus righties, and he's someone who I think we're going to probably have in a platoon type role as a corner outfielder, a corner infield type guy who can be a pinch hitter off the bench and provide some pop in that way. Home run leaders, as I said, was Montero, our only player with over 20, although we had 19 from Rogers, 18 from Bryant, 18 from Jones, 16 from McMahon. And Ezequiel Tovar, he's seeing some very good progression along the board. We have him signed long term for another 6 seasons at $12 million out of Venezuela. His sophomore campaign matches last year with 15 home runs and less at bats, although the RBIs are down. But he's already an elite fielder at 92 fielding, a very strong arm in the field, and as his bat comes around, he's just going to turn into a potential all-star for us, I think. So we really like what he provides in the field especially, and he's coming around with the bat as well. He does show good power at times, although he can be a little streaky with that 37 discipline, although that gets a good bump up with +4 and then clutch at +3, now at 75, someone who can be a middle-of-the-order type guy for us. Going over here to stolen bases, no players with 20, only 2 with at least 10, that being Nolan Jones and Brenton Doyle. That's going to be one of the biggest areas we look to address in the offseason is bringing in some more speed and some guys who can steal some bases. Kind of already went through batting average. Tapia at 275 was third on the team, although in limited at-bats. Sean Bouchard, 254. Jason DeLay at 243. OBP, McMahon led the way at 364. Rogers at 361. Jones, Tapia, Bryant. Slugging, Montero was the only player, he led the way at 464, then Nolan Jones, Rogers, and Fernandez, the only players at over 450 slugging, although Bouchard wasn't too far behind. And then McMahon and Bryant, and then everyone else was a sub 400 slugging for us. Rogers led the way in OPS at 817, Jones the only other player at over 800, followed by Montero, McMahon, and Fernandez. Strikeouts, a lot for Nolan Jones, and that's something I addressed earlier. He really has to cut down the strikeouts if he wants to turn into a reliable, consistent power hitter for us. Montero up there, McMahon, Tovar, Bryant, Doyle, and only 79 strikeouts for Brendan Rodgers, and I'm pretty sure he led our team in at-bats, so he had very good discipline, and like I've been saying, was our best hitter. Nolan Jones, 39 doubles, led the team. Brendan Rodgers with 30. Bryant, Tovar, Montero, all with over 25. And then we only had 4 players who hit for multiple triples, and we had no player hit for more than 2. So like I said, we need to add some more speed, some more excitement to the base paths. What about fielding? Tapia, 1,000%. Bouchard, Romo under and the backstop. I was going to say under center, but we're not playing football. Romo at catcher, he was solid for us most of the way with the bat, but really got cold towards the end of the season. Someone we also kind of had to call up sooner than we wanted after we traded Elias Diaz, and then we had an injury to Jacob Stallings. So Romo saw a lot of time, 128 at-bats over 38 games, and I don't expect him to be on the MLB roster to start next year, but he will compete for a spot, but more than likely still another year or 2 away before he gets back into a platoon role with us. We're going to try and sign a catcher over the offseason. Now at WAR, McMahon led with a 4.3 and then Rogers at 4.2, and that was it. A huge drop-off after that. Brenton Doyle at 1.8 was third on the team, and Tovar at 1.6 was fourth. And with a lot of these guys, especially Tovar, Doyle, and McMahon, I think a big reason for their high WAR is because of their fielding. Tapia 1.3, Montero 1.2, Bouchard and Jones at 1. And other than that, everyone else was sub 1, and Kyle Dacres here was at negative 0.6. He was called up, 28 years old. He took Alan Trejo's spot on the roster, but really didn't provide much in his first season as a member of the Rockies. McMahon, the only player with a decent walk rate. Everyone else under 10. K rate, Dacres at 31.6, Doyle, Romo, Jones, Bouchard, and Montero all at least 25%. And Ks per 9. Brendan Rodgers at 0.58, McMahon at 0.49. Then we see kind of a big drop off there. And Doyle, Tovar, Bouchard, Montero among the worst in that category. Yanquiel Fernandez led in isolated power, then Montero at-bats per home run. Bouchard led the way. 20 at-bats per home run was the best on our team. We got to get better there. And I'm not too familiar with any more of these like sabermetrics or whatever you want to call them. Although we will go over to splits. Rogers hit over 300 against righties. McMahon was very good against righties. All these, you'd expect all these lefties up here. McMahon, Jones, Tapia batted pretty well against righties. Daychis only 157. Romo 203. And Tovar, wow, only 219 against righties. So obviously better against lefties, but I kind of expected better numbers in that spot. Bouchard only 235. 10 home runs against lefties for Rogers. What about average? Kyle Daychis actually hit 320 against lefties, although just the 157 against righties. Rogers 318 against lefties. Tapia almost 300 against lefties, oddly enough. And Bouchard 292 against lefties. So maybe that's what we just got to stick him mostly against lefties. Although he does have better contact against righties. Chris Bryant was very good against lefties. 7 of his home runs against lefties. 9 of his home runs for Montero against lefties. 7 from Jones. And then we're just going to look at pitchers a little bit and then call it a day and then simulate the playoffs and get through that so we can get into the offseason in the next episode. We'll go with starters for now. Our rotation pretty much all year, Freeland, Quantrill, Hudson, and then we had Marquez in there late, and Lambert had some starts. Gomer was starter most of the way until he was thrown into the pen. So Quantrill and Freeland were the only players to start all their starts. Hudson had 30, Gomer had 25, Marquez had 14 as he recovered from injury, and then Lambert started 11, mostly out of the bullpen, was his season. So leading in innings pitched was Kyle Freeland. He was very up and down, but very strong actually towards the end of the season. He had 2 complete game shutouts during a pretty close stretch, his first 2 shutouts of his career. So he'll probably be in the rotation next year. Cal Quantrill started off tremendously, but kind of fell apart there after the All-Star break. And he was our only starter with a sub-4 ERA, and I think he has arbitration next year, so he'll more than likely be back in our rotation. I think Freeland and Quantrill are probably the only 2 guys who are set out, like have concrete spots. And that'll bring us to German Marquez here. Coming back from injury, he wasn't that great. He had a few good starts. Actually had 7 quality starts out of 14. Not the best, but just based on how he's been here so long, I'm not sure what we're going to do with him. Maybe we'll trade him. We do have him under contract for 1 more season, but I don't know. It depends how the free agent market is and how many starters we can bring in. Then there was Dakota Hudson, Gomer. So quality starts. Freeland led the way. Quantrill and Hudson with 14, 13 respectively. And WAR. Quantrill led in WAR at 1.4. And then negative. Freeland was negative, and so was Marquez. Ks per 9. No one with over 7. Lambert led the way in Ks per 9, 6.86. Hudson had bad walk numbers. Home runs per 9. Quantrill led the way. Marquez gave up a ton of long balls, and his home runs per 9 actually went down -4 so far. Freeland, he struggled there. His home runs per 9 also down -4. And, that'll happen at Coors Field, it seems like. And now we'll just take a quick look at relievers. I don't know why it's not really showing too many guys. Curtis, he was kind of a workhorse out of the bullpen for us, 64 2/3. And then Gilbreth, he was like the workhorse for our lefty, +7 in walks per 9, and that's only up to a 40. So that's a huge concern, although he kind of handled that pretty well this year. Jake Bird, 33 innings as our setup man. He had 28 holds. He was very effective there. The deep potential at a 66 overall, just based on how successful he was this year, I kind of do want to bring him back, but I don't know how much upside he has at like I said, deep potential, only 66. Taj Bradley was a September call-up. We acquired him in the Charlie Blackmon trade. Only made 3 appearances, but a very strong 4 1/3. Allowed only 1 base runner, 2 strikeouts. And he's someone who's going to probably be in our bullpen next year. I don't know, in a long relief role, maybe a setup role. I'm not quite sure, but he was closing for Tampa Bay's AAA team when we traded for him, so maybe he can work as a closer after he kind of failed as a starter there with the Rays. Closers here, I don't know why Matt Cook's considered a closer. We got to switch that to relief pitcher, but he was 2 out of 2 in saves, 18 innings as he was a late call-up, and a very respectable ERA at 3 even, a sub-1 whip. He'll probably be back next year just based on how good he was, although he will be 34, so I don't know how much he'll be here beyond that. Justin Lawrence was 17 out of 18 as our third closer of the year after we traded Tyler Kinley, but before that it was Daniel Bard who we traded to the Rangers. About 50 innings, 2.55 ERA, although the whip at 1.48 a little high. But I mean, at this point, based on how he was, he probably will open the season as our closer. There might be some good relief pitchers, some good closers on the market, but just based on where our team currently is, I don't think investing in a closer is really the best choice. So with that, I know that might have been kind of long, kind of boring for some of you, but hopefully you just skipped ahead past the parts you didn't enjoy. And now we're going to get into the playoffs and just simulate ahead and close this episode. So in the AL, we have Tampa Bay against Cleveland, Seattle against Baltimore, and then in the NL, it's Arizona against Philly. Isn't that a rematch of the NLDS or NLCS of last year? And then Chicago and Cincinnati, a very surprising battle of NL Central teams, as the Reds were probably the biggest surprise team this season. Tampa Bay and Arizona each take game one. And I wish there was a kind of a closer way to do this, unfortunately, but this is the best we got. Seattle and Chicago. So Seattle sweeps Baltimore. They win each game probably with strong starting pitching. Cleveland beats Tampa Bay in 3 games. So our boy Charlie Blackmon, unfortunately, he's not going to get a ring as he was traded to the Tampa Bay prior to the trade deadline. Chicago sweeps the Reds, and the Phillies beat Arizona in Game 3. So now we have Philly against the Dodgers, Chicago against Atlanta, Cleveland against the Yankees, and Mariners against Seattle. Some interesting matchups here. Dodgers take the first 2, but every other series besides that are split in the first 2 games. The Dodgers sweep the Phillies, and the Chicago upsets Atlanta, and now it's going to be a Chicago-LA NLCS. Here in the AL, we have New York 2-1 and Seattle 2-1. Seattle will beat Minnesota in 4 games, so they come out of the wild card series and they advance to the the ALCS along with the Cubs. They do the same on the other side. And we're going to have a Game 5 here in the ALDS between the Yankees and Cleveland. And the Yankees do take that. They deliver in a big-time game. So the bottom 4 now, it's the Yankees, Mariners, Dodgers, Cubs. And actually, prior to this season, I don't think the Mariners are doing that great. I actually put some money on a Seattle-LA Dodgers World Series. So that could actually come true here in this franchise. The Cubs take Game 1. They take Game 2 as well. Seattle takes Game 1. So it's 1-1 here in the ALCS now. 2-0 Cubs against the Dodgers. The Dodgers win Game 3 and Game 4, now evened up 2-2. And it's tied 2-2 here in the ALCS as well. Chicago takes Game 5. They're now 1 game away from reaching the World Series. Seattle up 3-2. And Chicago defeats the Dodgers in 6 games, and they stun the nation as they advance to the World Series. Mariners up 3-3. And the Yankees, they have another... they had a Game 5 and now a Game 7. So let's see who takes Game 7 in the AL. It's going to be a Yankees-Cubs World Series. And let's go to this Cubs thing. We'll just see how they did. They took the first 2 games quite handily against the Dodgers, 7-3, then 10-2. Then they lost 2 in a row. Then they won 4-1 and then 3-1. So they've been getting very good pitching. And let's go over to the Yankees, see how their playoff run has gone. They had, like I said, that Game 5 and a Game 7. So here in Game 7, Logan Gilbert looks like he imploded. The Yankees scored 12. And Gilbert, he was the AL leader in pitching war. So, wow. And then look at this one. This was Game 4. The Yankees won 19-2. That has to be probably the worst deficit in an MLB playoff game, I would think. And then the Yankees come back to win the last 2. A shutout here from Garrett Cole, who I think got snubbed. He had a complete game shutout, only 2 hits allowed, and one of the better performances probably in Yankee history in the playoffs. So now we're going to have a Chicago Cub, New York Yankees World Series, just like we all drew it up. The Yankees take Game 1, Chicago takes Game 2, Chicago takes Game 3, and they take Game 4. So the Cubs win 3 games in a row. They lose Game 1 5-0. And there's another complete game shutout from Garrett Cole, 2 so far now in his last 2 starts. But then the Cubs win 6-4. They were down 3-1, and then a 5-run 4th inning. And then they win 3-1. They were down 1-0, and then scored 3 straight. Who pitched here for Kyle Kendricks? Alzaway. Wasn't he closer of the year in the NL, if I'm not mistaken? And now just 1 game away. The Cubs take this one in extras. as they win 7-5. It had to be a walk-off home run. So Spencer Torkelson for the Cubs, he hits 2 home runs, one of them a walk-off, and he was acquired from the Detroit Tigers earlier in the season. So now the Cubs just 1 game away, and they take Game 5. They win 4 games in a row, and the Chicago Cubs are World Series champions. The Yankees fought back there. They got 2 in the 9th. They were down 5-1, but not enough as the Cubs win. What was this, their second World Series championship? When did they last win? It was that 2016. So they're second in 8 years, and I don't think anyone had the Cubs winning the World Series this season. I guess we'll go over to league leaders and see who had the most hits and everything along the way. Torres, the most here in the AL. Suzuki, 22 there in the NL. 8 doubles for Judge, 5 for Bellinger. Ian Happ with 5 home runs. Patrick Wisdom with 5 home runs. They both had strong postseasons. 5 here from Polanco and the Rodriguez on the Mariners, even though they were eliminated. And Judge only had 4. I mean, still pretty good, but you would expect him to have a little more home run production. Patrick Wisdom with 12 RBIs. And I got to think at this point, the MVP of the postseason World Series is probably going to be a pitcher. 3 wins here as Shota Imanaga led the way as for his Rookie of the Year season. Alzaway had 6 saves throughout the postseason. Maybe he'll be the guy to win MVP. Jameson Taillon, 0.5 ERA. I wonder how many innings he pitched. Justin Steele, 3.21, and Imanaga not too far behind him. And Cole, he did have 2 shutouts coming in back-to-back starts. He led with 29 strikeouts. Justin Steele, 23 strikeouts. Steele had 33.2 innings pitched. He led the NL in 41. What a workhorse Garrett Cole was over the course of the season. Batting WAR, Judge 1.4 WAR. And it's crazy. The Dodgers got knocked off by the Cubs. Okay, look at this Cubs run. They sweep Cincinnati 2-0. Then they beat Atlanta. Atlanta was probably a huge favorite. They beat them in 4. Then they beat the Dodgers in 6. And then they beat the Yankees in 5. So the Cubs go 5-1, 9-3, 13-4. And what a run. Let's see who the World Series MVP was. Pete Crow Armstrong, the World Series MVP, at 500 batting average, 3 runs driven in, no home runs, but looks like he didn't need any. Really his rookie season, only 106 regular season at-bats, and he comes in 22 years old, and he's the World Series MVP. What a remarkable story that is. Suzuki overall was the postseason MVP for the Cubs. Patrick Wisdom and Swanson behind them. And then Aaron Judge, the American League postseason MVP. But I know this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. I know it was kind of a long episode just going through, all the logistics and everything, but I'm glad we got through it. And next episode, we can come back strong and we can go through the offseason, which, for those who kind of enjoy these rebuilds like I do, it's the best part of the game. So I'm super excited. I hope you tune back in for the offseason and see what changes and what improvements we make to this Colorado Rockies team in our first full offseason. So as always, everybody, it's been real and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.